Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by the one, the only Bibs. If you're on Mavs Twitter or a Mavs fan, you probably know him. But in case you don't, Bibs, let us know where we can find you at.
Oh man, on Twitter at BibsCorner, just like a baby's bibs. Film stuff at Bibs Film. I'm not as active over there as I want to be, but hopefully that changes soon.
Dr. Strange, you going to see it?
Yes, me and my sister have a appointment on Saturday, so
I'll be there in an hour. So we're gonna speed through this one. I'm happy. For some reason, I always interview people directly after terrible Mavs losses. I don't know what that is. It just is how it ends up being. But
stop scheduling interviews.
Yeah, I guess I need to stop. But this is perfect timing because I wanted to speak with Bibs regardless about a certain thing. But now the issue is so prevalent. If you follow Bibs on Twitter, you know he's one of the biggest pushers of the Rudy Gobert agenda. One of the biggest pushers. And I have caught so much heat from my viewer base for saying we should go out and get Rudy Gobert that I'm finally happy to talk. I want you guys to hear from someone else who probably knows more than me why the Mavs should go after Rudy Gobert. So I give you the floor.
All right. So before I get into this, I have to preface it by saying I don't believe it's a realistic option.
Why is that?
Or I haven't historically. The rumors that are coming out now make it seem like it potentially could be if we wanted it to be.
My only thing is I don't know what his market would be. That's the only thing I always say. I have zero clue what it would look like.
Exactly. So when I look at that part of it, when I look at what we traded KP for example, a guy with a ridiculously large contract that he probably can't live up to because of health issues. And you know, we got back two players who were underperforming, basically, with also large contracts, but smaller than his. The Gobert situation is that he has a ridiculously large contract. He's about to be 30, and he's not going to get, the expectation is that he wouldn't get much better than he is at the things that he's not good at. And depending on how you look at his game, that could be detrimental to you. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, especially with what we've seen in this Sun series, I guess let me start back. If Rudy Gobert was on this roster and you don't lose any big rotational player, does the series look different right now?
Yes, there's a reason the Jazz beat the Suns.
Yeah.
And we couldn't.
Yeah.
And Rudy Gobert is a huge part of that.
Yeah, that's exactly because everybody. It's so weird to me how Mavs fans rightfully get upset at the front office for never going after a center or like a decent center, right? Because they always take flyers here and there, but they never really go and get one. And Rudy Gobert, for some reason, is off limits.
It's funny because like I'll watch people talk about the things that we need, and they always end it with when you bring up Gobert, it's like they'll describe Gobert, and then you'll be like, so what about Gobert? And they'll be like, not Gobert.
Yeah.
And I believe most of it is they don't like him.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I can say I've definitely had players I didn't like personally. Like James Harden, when he came up, I didn't want him, not because he's a bad basketball player, because I didn't like him.
Yeah.
But they'll make other excuses for why it is. It's like, if you don't like him, just say you don't like him.
Yeah.
With the whole money thing, it's not coming out of my pocket, and we're not going to have cap room either way. So I don't know why that's a factor.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like we would trade presumably two bad contracts or like expensive contracts to get another expensive contract. It's not like we're eating into cap space we have.
Exactly. Like that part of it doesn't matter. And if you're winning, if you have a chance to win a championship, I don't think you care about the salary.
Okay. Yeah. And my stance is the Mavs need to be going all in here at some point soon, very soon, like next year almost. It'll be difficult considering what they have on the roster and the assets they have or the lack of assets. But if Rudy Gobert is available, that's an all-in type move. And I always see like you were talking earlier about how Mavs fans always describe Rudy Gobert. Like my ideal fit for Luka, I think Bam Adebayo was made in a lab to play with Luka Doncic, but it's just not probably ever going to happen.
Yeah, I think he's probably locked in down there. And he has no reason to leave. The culture is great. They win. Like he should be good.
Yeah. Ayton's not leaving either. That's a pipe dream.
Now, Ayton is my made in a lab perfect fit.
Yeah.
because I think he can do a lot of the things that Gobert does for you on both sides of the ball. And then he also has like a little bit of a mid-range game. So it's a little bit more expansive on the offensive side.
Right. See, like, I see Gobert as being probably the biggest realistic game changer if he was made available. The Mavs could swing for in the offseason.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, when it comes to this conversation, I don't think people understand why Rudy Gobert is good or why he's so impactful on the game. They want to look at highlight play type situations, and that's just not who he is. The things that he does are in between the lines. It's not in the box score. The screens he sets to get the Jazz open on every single play, that's not showing up in the box score. Like his pick and roll action, whether or not he gets the ball, Donovan Mitchell's coming off that clean every single time with a lane to the basket. That's not something every center can do.
Yeah.
His offensive rebounding, I think he leads the league with 4.5 points a game on putbacks. And most of those shots are 3-pointers. So those are long rebounds or Donovan Mitchell driving, throwing up some crap off the backboard. Like,
yeah,
it's a completely different situation with Luka as his primary guard. They talk about, defense. He has limitations on defense. You have to play a drop, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Playing a drop with 6'10" T-Rex arm Dwight Powell is a little bit different than playing a drop with 7'2", 8-foot wingspan Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
He's still challenging every single shot, even if he's playing drop.
That's what, like, the games last night when they were relentlessly hunting Luka, I kept seeing Chris Paul get to. I mean, Chris Paul is going to do that to a lot of guys. So I'll cut Luka a little bit of slack. But I kept seeing, like, God, if we had some big presence down low just to contest or just be there, the idea alone. We saw that in the Mavs series, right? Granted, it was a lot of our lesser guys, but how many times did like Josh Green just walk inside of the 3-point line and then immediately sprint out once like Gobert just made his presence out?
When you see Luka doing that, that's how you know it's serious. Because Luka's gonna play with whoever. Like, he's not doing it with Ayton, but he saw Gobert, he changed his mind. And again, that's something that doesn't show up in the box score. Like, how often a guy starts a drive, sees Rudy, and says, "Never mind."
Yeah.
In a play. So that part of it. And if you go back to last night, I was looking at how they were playing. Like, Luka has to be careful in those situations and dance because he doesn't have somebody behind him to bail him out if he lets Chris Paul by him. So he sits back and Chris Paul can do whatever he wants, get to a spot. Yeah. Rudy Gobert's back there. You press up on Chris Paul, make him drive, and then Rudy Gobert cleans it up on the back end. That's how the Jazz operate in a sense. But I don't know. I've gotten tired of trying to explain it to people in tweets. So the only time I talk about it is on the pod. I did me and Reese, I think it's one of our top 3 or top 2 episode at this point. We did the Gobert agenda where I pretty much spent 30 minutes just ranting about why Gobert is great.
Yeah. Like Mavs fans, you know what? I was thinking about this too. If you're a defensive minded player, I feel like the more people who hate you, the better.
Exactly.
If you're a well-liked defensive player, they like you because they're scoring on you. If you're a hated defensive player, I know Rudy has his antics for sure, but the Mavs need some of that too, honestly. They could use some of that nasty, non-friendly.
Nobody's putting Chris Paul or Devin Booker on their behind in the series.
Yeah, or Jay Crowder. Like the Mavs, I've always said the Mavs needed like a bit of an enforcer, and they just have never really had one. I mean, in recent memory. James Johnson was supposed to be that guy, but it didn't really pan out.
Got to be on the court to enforce it.
Yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't say we've had it since probably the championship run, honestly.
Yeah, the Mavs I just can't believe people still don't want Rudy Gobert. It would be one thing if we had $50 million available and you didn't want to use all of that on Gobert. That's somewhat understandable, but options are limited. Now, would you say if, let's say, a scenario pops up and a secondary ball handler, I'm trying to think, would you rather have like a Zach LaVine or Rudy Gobert?
So if I had to choose one, I would honestly probably say LaVine.
Really?
Just as far as like I think Gobert impacts the game more. Mm-hmm. But just on a which one's easier to find scenario. I do think you don't have to have Rudy Gobert. You can get somebody on a lower scale that does some of those things well enough to get by. If that makes sense. You can't find we got a lower scale Levine, and it's not getting us anywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's a different ball game if you have an actual Levine there.
Yeah, that's true. I guess in this situation, you'd still have to go out and get the center.
Yeah.
But if it was like one or the other, I think Gobert helps in a scenario where we don't get a center. Gobert helps the team a little bit more. They just desperately need a big. This series is like, because again, the Jazz, you could live. The Suns, when they relentlessly attack your weaknesses, it's a little bit shocking to see what they're able to do without a big menacing big down there. Do you think the Mavs, they're down 0-2, they're going home? What's the realistic hope for the team right now?
I have to live game to game, so I would like to win a home game. Game 3, it would be nice to come back, put it together, and get a W. I felt like it could have been there for us yesterday, but the Chris Paul and then Devin Booker taking turns just teeing off on us in the fourth quarter that pretty much put that to bed pretty quickly. There was one thing I wanted to say about the Gobert thing first before we got off it. I am gonna probably go into this a little deeper on our pod later. I'll be recording with Reese, but I've seen a lot of talk on the timeline about people being upset about the KP trade and desperately saying we need a big. The KP revisionism is ridiculous. I don't know why we would go there. Now, the part about needing a big, I think Nico knows that.
Yeah.
I think that's the plan. It's a multi-step plan. As soon as the trade went down, I was like, you know what? We're going to need a big. We're probably going to struggle in the postseason because we don't have a big. I didn't want to play a team with an elite big. Because of that, we got lucky. The Jazz are falling apart.
Right.
But I would be surprised if that's not the priority in the offseason.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it needs to be said every 5 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, the KP revisionism, you're right. It is crazy. Because he was in the playoffs last year. He was standing in the corner by himself. It was sad. It really was getting to a point where it was almost kind of sad to watch.
Yeah. It was that I think, last summer I need him off my team.
Oh, that was the exact same. I didn't care. It's funny because I had a tweet that I saw that I went back and saw in my searches where I had a very similar, didn't when he wasn't involved because he wasn't on the Wizards yet. But I was like, I would trade KP to Bertans the moment if Washington asked for it, just because I was so ready to have Kristaps off of the team. It was just one of those, when it's just time to move on, it's time to move on.
Exactly.
And the revisionism. Oh, and that's how the Jazz are, though, with Gobert. It's time to move on. Someone's got to go.
It's interesting. I follow a lot of Jazz fans. They are very split on the Donovan Rudy thing, but I'm actually surprised most people are on Rudy's side in that scenario.
Really? A lot of them are?
Most of them are aware that Rudy kind of keeps their floor high. Like if they're just Donovan, they might be prettier to watch, but they're not winning games.
Wow. I guess too, maybe some of it is if you get rid of Donovan, you would probably get more in return.
Exactly. There's probably a much better market for Donovan.
Ooh, I wonder, should the Mavs be in play if Donovan's available?
I can't say I would be against it 100%. I liked Donovan at one point, and maybe his fall off is tied to his disdain for his co-worker. So
could be. We've all been there.
Yeah.
Maybe I always think Atlanta though when I think Donovan Mitchell trade. Always.
I always think Atlanta when I think Gobert trade. Interesting.
Really, I was thinking Thunder. I've been thinking Thunder lately. It just makes them. For Gobert, they got to start competing soon.
I could see it. Him and Shea in a pick and roll will be pretty epic with some shooters.
Yeah, I was just looking on their subreddit, and they were not that interested in it. But from a neutral perspective, I feel like at some point they got to start taking it a little bit seriously, just from a team building perspective. If you're the owner, people need to always understand that with ownership, you don't ever want to be on you want to have a sellable product, right? Which is why I don't think the Jazz would trade both.
Exactly. They want to compete still, and they're not going to trade both. The Thunder were a team I thought of for Donovan, depending on what the Thunder's plan was. Like if they want to go all in on trying to compete, then maybe Gobert. But if they want to go all in on marketability and maybe Shea or Shaq, I don't know how his name is pronounced, honestly. Shea. All right. So Shea wants to compete and they're not ready to, or maybe they don't know if they want Giddey to have more primary ball handling. Then maybe they trade him for Donovan. And then I get what I want either way, because I like Shea. And I think Rudy Gobert is a completely different player with an actual distributor beside him.
Yeah, that's another thing too, Mavs fans. Rudy Gobert would not develop post moves. Like that would never happen.
No.
But God, you see what Luka does for Dwight Powell, who's good. He was a good roller. Like Dwight Powell's good in that role.
Right.
But Rudy Gobert and Luka,
he almost took over the world with Mike Toby. Like, I don't know why people don't understand why that. I don't know why people don't understand that Luka throwing you a lob or Luka dumping off passes to you is different than Donovan Mitchell doing whatever he's doing.
Yeah. And even with that in mind, that pick and roll has always sort of been towards the top. The Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert pick and roll and efficiency, and Mike Conley, who is a good lob passer.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the ball in his hands every single time on the floor like Luka was. How do you feel about those narratives really quickly? Like while we're just talking about it, the Luka ball. Yeah,
in this series, I think it's overblown. If you can't tell that Brunson is struggling to do things, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Same thing with Dinwiddie. And then who else is supposed to have the ball at that point?
Mm-hmm.
It's really that simple for me. Like, I don't expect Dorian Finney-Smith to be doing anything off the bounce. I don't expect Bullock to be doing anything off the bounce. Jalen Brunson has been struggling, and so is Spencer Dinwiddie. So that leaves us with Luka having the ball a lot.
Yeah. And I don't understand. It's just people came into the series with a narrative and they're like, all right, this is getting pushed no matter what. And the Mavs have lost, but Luka's gone nuts. So it's like a little bit weird, but Brunson needs to, like, I actually just recorded a video about this right before we linked up. I'm not worried about Brunson too much.
You mean like long term, like his ability?
I want to pay him. If the Mavs give him $20 million, I feel very good about that.
Considering what we just gave Tim Hardaway Jr., I'm fine with it.
Yeah, because you look around, I was looking at this, every other team in the playoffs, their second option, I mean, we're talking 25, 26, 27, or max guys.
Look at Tobias Harris is making like 30 something as the third guy.
Yeah, Tobias Harris making 30. Is Draymond still making 30? I mean, Wiggins is.
I think he's making 35 because he made the comment like, they can find me. I make $35 million or something.
That's right. I didn't know if he signed a new contract recently or what, but he's making that much. Wiggins is making that much. Jaren Jackson's making, when his new contract kicks in, would be making more than $20 million for Brunson.
Like, I still want to add another player at his level or higher, but his salary, again, it's not my money.
Yeah, exactly.
And somebody else is going to pay him that. So why should we not?
I understood the Tim Hardaway ones because even I was a little bit kind of like, we have cap space to go spend elsewhere. So bringing in Tim Hardaway was a little bit weird, but now we don't have cap space. So everything changes. You would lose Brunson for nothing unless there's a sign and trade.
That's just asset management at that point. Like I said, if somebody else is willing to pay him that, then it's worth to pay him.
Yeah, I agree. I was talking about that with SJ. The market will dictate what Jalen Brunson is worth, not anything. If the Pistons want to give him $26 million, well, that's what his market is.
Right.
And I do have a cutoff though. If it's like 25, I don't know.
I'm not ready to go there. Like, I'm trying to stick to, let's wait till this season is over. But as soon as the season is over, we're going all in, all out on off-season stuff.
That's true, man. That's true. I still need to get myself hyped. There's a lot can happen. We win game 3.
Chris Paul playoff health is not, it's not guaranteed. People can get high all of a sudden. Maybe
Scott Foster's looming.
Yeah, Jason Kidd could try something he hasn't done yet that we haven't seen. A lot, anything is possible, as Kevin Garnett once famously said.
Yeah, anything's possible, especially when you have a player like Luke on your roster. That's what we got to remember. Yeah, anything can happen, even though it doesn't seem. You know what? You're right. Anything can happen. There's no reason to harp on anything beyond that. But I just wanted to have Bibs on. Thank you very much for coming. I know it was a little bit shorter, but I just felt, God, the Rudy Gobert agenda. I mean, what a perfect time to start pushing it right now in this series.
Free Rudy Gobert.
BibsCorner, Mavs Outsiders. I'm sure most of you guys listen to it because I know some of you have asked me to have Bibs on. Thank you very much for coming, man. Go Mavs. Gobert, maybe.
Thanks for having me. No comment on the Gobert stuff.
I'll talk to you guys later.